Jin Yucheng's novel Flowers text chapter 8. 1. Miss Wang said, the 7-year-old. Lily laughed and said, day by day, all I want is to get married, but it is the pain of not being able to find a man. Miss Wang said that I am not going to take my husband with me this time to Changshu. Lily said that Mr. Kang and Mrs. Kang are very affectionate and they always go in and out together. Miss Wang said, now I want to be free and relaxed. Yesterday, when I had a facial, my little sister told me that I had more wrinkles. Lily said that he would believe this kind of business experience. Okay, I will consider it again. If I go to Changshu, I will notify you in time. Miss Wang hung up the phone. Bao laughed and said that Mr. Zhu still looks good, but he is a little older. Lily said that in the beginning, he was quite polite and took good care of my business. He invited many people to come to dinner and invited me to visit Changshu. The entire Changshu family, including my ex-wife and 2 little girls, are all counted by me. Lee's property, maybe it's 13, Bao said. It's not surprising if an old man likes a woman. He is lucky enough not to kneel down or offer 888 roses. Bao didn't make any sound. Lily said that it is really annoying that he is still pretending to be confused now. Bao didn't make any sound, Lily said. So, I don't want to go to Changshu anymore. But just now, Miss Wang called me and she wanted to go. She was also planning to go out to relax at home without her husband. Bao said that going to Changshu to relax is like letting a sheep slip into a tiger's mouth. And it is like being sent to your door automatically and let Mr. Zhu stick to it. Which is great. Lily said in a slow voice that Mr. Zhu would also stare at married women and be happy about them. Bao said, it's hard to say, Miss Wang is also pretty and sexy. Lily sneered and said that it was rare to hear a beau say good things about women. Bao said that from the perspective of an old man, Miss Wang is still okay, Lily said. Okay, I don't feel jealous at all. Bao said that Mr. Z's female secretary, Suan, was a bit old, and it was said that she had been. Lily interrupted and said that Mr. Zhu's private matters should be discussed less frequently. Bao didn't make any sound, Lily said. If I take a few more girlfriends with me on this trip and we all go together, there will be more people and more targets. Even if Mr. Zhu is in trouble, I can ignore it. As for Bao, he can accompany me, Bao said. What? They are inviting beautiful women to eat crabs. Why would a man get involved? Lily said. If a beau agrees, I will go and help me. Bao said, changing the target and getting ready to muddy the waters. Lily smiled and said, I don't care. Bao smiled and said, I can agree. But let me make it clear first that if Mr. Zhu really gets involved with others, Lily is not allowed to be jealous. Lily laughed and said, what are you talking about? Maybe, too, on the first Saturday of November, an Iveco arrived in Changshu. At 8:30 in the morning, we gathered at the People's Square to get on the bus. The pink and white are as new. I remember Xiao Mao's crooked words. The mountains are greener outside the mountains. The sky is south, and the sea is north. Every year as the horse marches alone. See all the good flowers and knots. It is time to discuss who is Wu Qianghua and who is the female company commander in the car. Bao said, it's really funny. Speaking of which, Mr. Zhu from Changshu is Nan Beishan. She didn't understand this at all. In the past, when she went out to engage in activities, she just attacked local tyrants and distributed leaflets. Now, women no longer carry swords or pistols. They only know how to apply powder and apply rouge. Reading and writing, treating guests to dinner, and living life are all revolutions. Go out for an activity and perform a revolutionary mission. Miss Wang said, stop talking nonsense. Now, I would like to ask Comrade Changking to give instructions. The main thing is to select female cadres and female soldiers. Who does Comrade Changking mention and how to allocate roles and tasks? Everyone is not allowed to argue, quarrel, and pick and choose. Bao didn't make any sound. There were a lot of chatter in the car, asking Bao to speak quickly. Bao hesitated and said, let me think about it. This movie is really a bitter show. All the people are suffering, Comrade Changking. And he was burned to ashes in the end. It's too bitter. Li said that everything is subject to the instructions of the organization, and the organization can call names. A Bao said, I must tell you. First, I am a girl, serving the master every day to wipe his face and bathe in the water. I also have to be whipped, tied up and beaten. I'm really going to die soon. If I am going to die, I will still rebel. Ms. Wang sneered and said, being a top actress is a bit harder, but being famous will give you face. What's the point of being a company commander? I really can't think of it anymore. I already have this old talk. I have to have a serious name. If not, the mistress is not as good as running round. Just like a few useless cards, playing around casually, wiping the tablecloth in the Chinese medicine store. A Bao said, You see it. You see it. I know. It's wrong to say it. Only Shang Wenyanju could do it. Her eyes were full of misery and her hair was too thin. The root is bitter, but it has a taste. There is a bitterness in it, which makes people reluctant to part with it. Old men are the happiest. Miss Wu said, That's not right. It's Yuan's weapon. The Queen of Yu Opera. A Bao said that women's demands are too high, and they are too unsatisfactory. They want to be young and beautiful, but they don't want to suffer. Mr. Zhu is in his 60s, of medium build, and speaks Shanghai's. Next to him are Bosting, a friend from Zhejiang, and Suen, a female secretary in her 40s. When the car stopped, Li asked A Bao to get out of the car first. Mr. Zhu came up to shake hands. Li got out of the car. Mr. Zhu shook hands warmly and whispered something in his ear. Friends from here come, and Western chefs from Shanghai, all relying on Suen to take care of me. Suen smiled. Li said that Suen is equal to the hostess. Suen said respectfully, I am the killer. Li said, What do 5 copper vases mean? Bosting said, This is not called a vase, but a respect. Everyone looks at it. The bronze statues are ranged quietly, tall, short, fat and thin, with colorful green rust. Mr. Zhu said, This group of babies looks good. When I woke up tomorrow morning, my whole body would no longer be able to move. I would squat on the table and let others see and touch me for the rest of my life. Mr. Zhu said with a smile, Well, I'll just count 1 less and put 4. That's fine. Porcelain vase. A woman can do this at this point. What's wrong with it? Everyone laughed. Mr. Zhu was surprised and said that there are not many men who really have character and can understand Miss Wang. Li did not ring. Miss Wang said shyly, Mr. Zhu understands me. That's all. Suen remained silent. At this moment, the servants came to report that dinner was ready. Everyone walked into the dining room. Mr. Zhu took the seat and asked Li to sit next to him. Li asked Miss Wang to sit down. The two of them pushed and pulled back and forth. Bosting said, Sit on the left and right hand. Miss Wang sat down immediately. Li had no choice but to sit down and casually pulled A Bao to sit down. Next to him was Miss Zhang. Li told Bosting that there was no harmony between yin and yang. There were 3 men and 6 women. Mr. Ding sat next to Miss Wang, then Miss Su, Miss Wu, and Miss Qin. Bosting said, It's liquor. Mr. Zhu said, If I don't agree, Li won't come and can only buy it. It's really unreasonable. Shanghai's genuine is a place where everyone can drink and drink. Steam it in a basket and add diced bamboo shoots and vegetable stems, golden legs and dice thickening. Miss Wang said it was delicious. Mr. Zhu said, I have an old friend who is a traditional Chinese medicine doctor. He has a secret recipe for skin beauty passed down from his ancestors. It is just a few good medicines, added with black pig fat oil to make pills. Take 3 pills and try it. It is more effective than length. Ms. Wang said with a smile that I was originally white. But when I went swimming in the Xinjiang, everyone in the locker room said I was Caucasian. Li doesn't make a sound. Mr. Zhu said that after Miss Wang said this, no one would dare to eat this dish if others eat it. It is equivalent to admitting that their skin is not good. Everyone laughs. Miss Wang said charmingly, Mr. Zhu, why are you staring at me? On the stage, everyone is a beauty, so you will be unhappy. Lily tapped a bow with her toes and said with a smile, why are you so polite? Miss Wang's appearance is just right. Beautiful. At this time, the hairy crabs are served. Miss Wang leaned back and said, I can't eat anymore. It's rare for me to go out alone. I thought I could have some old wine. I went crazy. I didn't know I could only have tea. What more could I talk about Langman lard dumplings? I've already the oil is tight, Mr. Zhu said. I'm sorry, the crabs are pretty good. Just eat one crab lump alone. That's fine. Mr. Zhu opened the crab lump and placed it in front of Miss Wang. Suan remained silent. Lily said that Mr. Zhu eats it at home. Everyone was busy removing crab legs, twisting crab claws, and mouthing. Suan smiled and said, guess what part of the crab is the most nutritious and nourishing? Po said. Of course it's crab roe. Lily said that Po specializes in eating female crabs, which are fat and full, right? Mr. Zhu said. Lily only peels male crabs for some reason. Miss Qin said, what? Miss Wu said that Mr. Bao likes female crabs, which are full of crab roe, while male crabs only have crab paste in their bellies. Lily said, 13. Mr. Zhu said, this is called opposites attracting each other, and whatever is missing makes up for it. Miss Zhang smiled. Boss Ding said that in terms of nutrition, it should be crab claws, which have a strong grip and have the greatest strength. Suan said, wrong. Miss Zhang said, it can't be crab eyes, crab mouth, crab belly. Suan said, yes, 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 let me tell you. It is the toes of crab legs, the thin toes that no one eats. A crab only has 8 thin toes. Inside this sharp spine, there is a trace of black yarn-like meat. Is the soul of crab, is ginseng, and its name is crab ginseng. Everyone was stunned. Miss Wang said nothing. Suan said that authentic hairy crabs can climb glass panels, all because of the strength of these 8 filaments. Miss Wang said nothing. Everyone followed Suan's instructions, first breaking off the small tip of the crab's leg, biting it gently, and folding it with their hands, and sure enough, a piece of black yarn-like flesh came out. A Bao said, it's amazing. I ate ginseng. Miss Zhang, Miss Wu, and Lily also began to bite and peel off the skin, but Miss Wang remained silent. Suan said, Miss Wang, she probably had an upset stomach and took a sip of hot tea. Miss Wang said in a daze, I don't drink tea. Suan remained silent. Miss Wang suddenly said, I want to eat old wine. Mr. Zhu just peeled off a bit of crab meat and looked at Miss Wang. Boss Ding said, let's just eat crabs and tea. Miss Wang suddenly shook her body and said, I just want rice wine and hard food. Speaking of wine, Mr. Zhu looked at Lily, so Lily reluctantly said, okay, just eat a little and don't get drunk. Mr. Zhu said that there is good rice wine here, which is aged in jars and has a thick and glutinous taste. Miss Wang looked at Mr. Zhu and said slowly, I want to eat hard food. Mr. Zhu was surprised and said, this is a powerful statement. Shanghai women can only drink red wine and Sprite at most. Miss Wang said, this is too vulgar. I go to the Canton Fair twice a year. Foreigners say that the Chinese people eating this kind of mixed drink recently are just messing around and a waste. Mr. Zhu said, it's great. I'm very happy to meet Miss Wang this time. From now on, I will ask Miss Wang to lead the way. It's all up to Miss Wang to lead me around. Lily did not ring. Miss Wang said, Mr. Zhu, the word joy should not be spoken casually to women. Mr. Zhu beamed with joy and said, awesome, Auntie, open some white wine, and open the wine. Lily said, it's too big. Miss Wang said that Lily also ate it and ate it together. Lily shook his hand. The aunt brought the wine glass, and after some pushing and shoving, a Bao wanted to take it, but his feet hurt under the table. A Bao looked to the side. Miss Wu's face turned red and she waved her hands. Finally, Mr. Zhu, Boss Ding, and Miss Wang ate wine while the others peeled crabs. Mr. Zhu said that since Miss Wang asked for wine, the rules here are to receive 3 glasses of wine first. Lily said, okay, Miss Wang rarely relaxes. At least 3 drinks. Miss Wang said, I am a woman and you cannot treat me like this. Lily said that it is always necessary to at least pay respect to the neighbors and have a drink each. Ms. Wang agreed, so the 2 men and 1 woman were walking around, having a great time. Later, Bosting made a drinking order, a little bee. Ms. Wang was finally happy, and the 3 of them sang together, a little bee, fly into the flowers, fly, fly, fly. Lily whispered to a bow, think about it. A bow didn't make any sound. Lily snatched Mr. Zhu's wine glass and said, I'll pour it. Don't get drunk. Miss Zhang said, Comrade Cheng King. It doesn't work at all. Miss Wu said that the man had been tied to the tree and was ready to be set on fire and sacrificed. He could only shout a few slogans. Now, it was up to the company commander and Nan Beishan to make a revolution. A bow said that Nan Beishan had a bandit friend with a hosen squatting on his shoulder blade. Lily said that because of this, the company commander's tasks were increased and he had to volunteer. Mr. Zhu turned around and said, What do you mean, company commander? Hosen? Miss Qin covered her face with a napkin. Only Miss Wang turned a deaf ear. Her eyes were fixed. Her face was like a hibiscus. There was light in her beauty, and her soul was flying over. The little bee almost fell down, and Miss Wang couldn't sit still, so she leaned on Bosting's shoulder. Bosting shrank, and Miss Wang slowly leaned towards Mr. Zhu. A bow said, I suggest that Miss Wang, on behalf of everyone, thank Mr. Zhu and have a drink. Bosting said, Okay, everyone clapped. Suan remained silent. Lily stepped on a bow. At this moment, Miss Wang closed her eyes and slowly began to react. She shook her waist, stood up softly and gracefully. Mr. Zhu smiled and stood up. Miss Wang's cheeks were red to the point of her head and neck. Her eyes were misty. Her feet were in high heels. Her waist suddenly softened. Mr. Zhu held on tightly. The 2 of them hooked their arms and were entangled for a while. The drinks were dripping. And finally they met and waited. Go to the rim of the cup and swallow it in 1 gulp. Everyone clapped. At this moment, a bow noticed that Suan was silent and looked bad. Miss Zhang said that Bosting was obviously unhappy and should pay attention once. Lily said, the word Zhao is like. Bosting took the cup and said to Miss Wang, hand it over or not. Miss Wang said with a smile, I'll ask Bosting first. What's the difference between my vase and the precious copper vase? Let's talk about it. Bosting said, of course, Miss Wang is more beautiful. Ms. Wang's pronunciation was vague and she said, wrong. As the old saying goes, when a woman is over 30, the moon fades her brilliance. Why am I beautiful? I'm just a little wider and have a soft waist. Lily is the youngest and most beautiful here. Bosting said, it's the same. Just as beautiful. Miss Wang patted Bosting on the shoulder and said, don't mess around with me, speak seriously. Bosting said, I really can't tell. Miss Wang said, it's actually quite simple. The copper vase is hard all over, but I am soft all over. Mr. Zhu laughed. Miss Khan stretched out her arm and said to Mr. Zhu, press it to see if the vase handle is soft. Bosting smiled. Miss Wang said, don't panic. Press it once, press it once. Bosting smiled and pressed. Mr. Zhu said, okay, the fuse has blown out, and now the electricity is finally connected. People in Shanghai say that when you use electrostatic anesthesia, you can feel it. Lily glanced at a bow. Miss Wang said, the copper vase is cold all over. I feel warm and hot from head to toe. Bosting will deduct points and give me a drink first. Mr. Zhu took the initiative and said, that's it. If you want to be punished, I'll punish you. I'm totally convinced. I'll pay you another drink. Okay. Suan remained silent. Miss Wang turned a deaf ear and murmured, a little bee, fly into the flowers. Fly, fly, Lily said. Get up and make love. Miss Wang said, what? Lily said, I want to hand over a cup first. At this moment, Miss Wang's pupils were wide open. She looked at a circle of people. Her whole body became stiff, and she suddenly slapped the table and said, fart. The cup jumped and Lily was stunned. Miss Wang said, Lily, what do you order me to do? Lily said quietly, okay. Miss Wang said that it was just opening a restaurant, so why not? Lily said, do whatever you want. Miss Wang said, Just say a few words, let me have a few drinks. Forget it. Keep an eye on my rickshaw. What do you mean, without me? Miss Wang, there would be Li today. Li's complexion changed drastically, and he stood up about to have a seizure. Bao quickly pressed it firmly. Mr. Zhu was slightly tipsy, lowered his head and smiled sadly. Boss Ding's eyesight was still clear. He stood up and said, "Forget it, Miss Wang. I will punish myself with a drink first. Everyone, now I declare that I was wrong and I will punish you." Miss Wang has a stern face. Her complexion is stiff and red, and she is also a little slow. During the silence, Suen, who had been silent across the street, smiled, walked over to Miss Wang, spread the flowers and willows, whispered softly, and comforted her. Miss Wang's eyes were a little numb. Suen moved Boss Ding's wine glass, filled the 2 glasses and said, "Come on, my sister is looking for 2. She is a sweetheart. Let's get a glass. We have a deep fate, and leave a souvenir. It's a trivial matter." Miss Wang softened her cheeks. Her movements were obviously slow, and her gestures were stiff, but she clinked glasses with Suen and poured them down in one gulp. Suen sat down. Miss Wang sat on her seat and stayed there for 20 or 30 seconds. Suddenly her head shot towards the table and she fell unconscious. Everyone screamed. Suen came over slowly and asked her aunt to take care of her. Mr. Zhu grabbed a hold and helped Miss Wang steady. He scolded Suen and said, "Let's take it to the room above first and then talk about it. It was good at first, but it's just this cup. It's fate. It's fate. You may be hurt." Suen calmly said in a loud voice, "If I don't drink this glass, I would like to watch a few more scenes. I think it's good, right?" Suen turned around and laughed. Everyone stood up. Mr. Zhu and his aunt helped Miss Wang upstairs, while the others followed to the patio. Suen walked all the way, leading everyone through the alleys, to the patio at the front, and up to the guest room on the 2nd floor. Each person had a room. The arrangements were made so that everyone could rest first and then go downstairs to have tea at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Not long after Bao sat in the room, Boss Ding came to visit. Bao said, "Suen is amazing." Boss Ding said that he has seen enough scenes to know that it can be over with just one drink. The 2 of them laughed, chatted, drank tea, smoked, and heard birds chirping outside the window. Bao said that Boss Ding's collection lasted for many years. Boss Ding said that it was because of business at the beginning. When he developed in the Shaanxi-Gansu area, there were many grave digs, and people often delivered goods to his door. The price was also low, so he kept accepting items one by one. He expressed interest in the items but was reluctant to receive them. Bao said that the opportunity is rare. Boss Ding said that when he met Mr. Bao today, he suddenly had an idea whether to do his brother a favor. Bao said, "There is no problem. We can talk about anything." Boss Ding said that in the 1950s, there was a big bronze collector in Shanghai who looked a bit like me. Bao said, "Who is that?" Boss Ding said that he rarely interacted with the outside world, kept the door tightly closed, and was extremely cautious with public servants in particular. At that time, a bronze expert from the Shanghai Museum visited the house several times and talked about it, but he could not see a precious collection at all. Bao said that this expert should be Ma Chengyuan, who is now the director of the Shanghai Museum and an authority on bronzes. Boss Ding said, "Probably. I am from Zhejiang. During the Cultural Revolution, all kinds of news about Shanghai were flying all over the sky. Antiques and museums turned into people. People became antiques, and there were a lot of strange foreign accents." Bao said that the museum has the most famous things. If Mao continues to do this and destroys the 4 olds, he will definitely knock them all out. Boss Ding said, "Let's not talk about it anymore. Our ancestors have already sat in the dragon court and want to fight against feudalism, so let's not talk about it anymore." Bao paused and said, Boss Ding asked Ma Chengyuan why. Boss Ding said that there was a criticism meeting in the museum. Ma Chengyuan hung a sign on his chest and bent down to do airplane pose. Suddenly someone rushed in and said, "Old Ma, Lao Ma, the big bronze dealer has called." The organization wanted to search the house, so they asked the museum comrades to immediately send a truck to load the bronzes on that day. The wealthy family paid one by one and turned them over to the public. Bao said that there is another version, which is also a criticism meeting. The old horse bent like an airplane, with his head on the ground and buttocks in the sky. Suddenly he heard the news about the bronze, and he looked up to the sky and laughed. Ha 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 ha, as if he had gone crazy, which frightened the revolutionary masses. Boss Ding said that his mood was understandable. The treasure he had longed for so many years has now grown up, and automatically ran into the museum. This is so happy for collectors. This taste is sweeter than honey. Bao said that collectors, strictly speaking, are not mentally healthy. When they see other people having good stuff, they immediately get lovesick, unable to eat or sit still. They try their best to get it, but after being happy for a long time, they go out to look for it again. Mi Shang Shun, it's hard to reach this point in life. Boss Ding said, collectors, are they perverts? Bao said that he is too possessive, likes the new and dislikes the old, and is a collector. Boss Ding said, Mr. Bao, did you say something wrong? The new guy laughs and the old guy cries. This is a woman. He got it and was happy for a long time. Then he went outside to look around and saw a beautiful woman. He thought about it day and night. After a lot of hard work, I got it, and I was happy for a long time. Then I went out to look at it again, and looked for it. I found it, and I hugged it twice. Then I went out to see the beautiful woman, and then went out to strike up a conversation. I was happy for a long time. And then I went out to look for it again. And then looked for it again. Bao said that he was going to talk until dawn. Boss Ding said with a smile, are collectors just gangsters? No, no, collectors are the most emotional people. Very emotional people. Po said, probably. I once got rid of a French stamp, and it still hurts to think about it now. Boss Ding said, yes, let's talk about it again. If you collect antiques, the world will be peaceful. If you collect women, the world will be in chaos. The more antiques, the better. They're dead and completely silent. Women are alive. If you take in a woman, you might get more than 100 incidents. Bao smiled. Boss Ding lowered his voice and said, I'm a big bronze dealer back then. I am too low-key and have no contact with the museum. Although there have been reports, I have been silent and have not expressed my position on the Shanghai Museum. Bao said, whether it was reported by a big newspaper in Shanghai or a small newspaper from other provinces. Boss Ding said, let's not talk about the past situation. I have recently prepared to publish a bronze painting album, which can attract the attention of the professional circle. I would like to ask Mr. Ma to take a look at the photos of the collection, write a preface, and inscribe the title of the book. If Mr. Bao has a way, I agree to any conditions and can help. Bao said, it should be okay. The two of them talked about it casually. At 3 o'clock, I heard Suan calling from the patio, inviting everyone to come downstairs for tea. So the two of them went downstairs, walked to the back patio, and sat on the wicker chairs in the corridor. The female guest was led by Suan. Li changed into a polka dot skirt suit. Miss Zhang and Miss Wu were dressed as they should. Miss Qin was homely and wore a plastic headband, with curly hair and room slippers on their feet. People were taking their seats one after another. Li looked around and said, where is Mr. Zhu? Suan remained silent. Boss Ding said that Miss Wang should have recovered. Suan paused and said, Mr. Zhu accompanied Miss Wang upstairs to rest, but there has been no movement. Li looked at his watch. Everyone is silent. On the east wall of the courtyard, in the small stage with cornices, two men and women sit in the stage playing music. The husband is wearing a sea blue gown, and the woman is wearing a round-breasted cheongsam with plum blossoms and red ground, and her waist is extremely thin. The two of them were out of the dust. Their eyes were far away, and when they woke up, their throats rang 2 or 3 times with the pipa strings. Mr. Subai spoke in a soothing tone and welcomed all guests from Shanghai. The spring breeze is spring crows, the autumn wind is autumn cicadas, the summer clouds are scorching rain, and the winter moon is cold. The weather is quite good today. You just saw the remaining lotuses and fallen leaves in the goldfish pond in the courtyard in front. It is also beautiful. There is an ancient poem that says, Fish plays with lotus leaves to the east. Fish plays with lotus leaves to the south. Fish plays with lotus leaves to the west. Fish plays with lotus leaves to the north. Suzhou embroidery ladies all know that fish plays with lotus leaves, and they are looking forward to their lover. So, the strings sounded again, and in the small courtyard. Without the need for amplification equipment, the poem Daochen worships the moon began. The heroine gave a sweet whimper. Her voice was melodious. Her singing was like a warbler's reed. And the toad's light was like water soaking into the flower wall. The fragrant mist gathered in the clouds and enveloped the secluded bamboo. The night in the courtyard was quiet and the light was like daylight. The scene was desolate. In the silence of all the noise, A Chanwan, imitation of Wang Qiang, Dae frowned and her eyes filled with tears. The parasol trees were slippery under the autumn rain and the moss was slippery. The gurgling pond water swallowed clear Shang. The patio is quiet. The western sun warms the eyes, and outside the white wall, the sound of autumn wind and autumn leaves, the noise of birds, the faint crowing of chickens, and the barking of dogs in the distance are all because this place is really quiet.
Alright, this part of the story ends here.
Want to know what happened next? Let's listen to the breakdown next time.